Well, hello and welcome to Deep Dive. Deep Dive is a podcast from Murrelbach Baptist Church. My name is John Coombs and I'm the lead pastor here, and it's great to have you with me today. And today we're continuing our series, our little mini-series that we've called Pathway to Purpose, by focusing on this idea of community, what it means to be a true community, a church community, a faith community, and how perhaps we can live that out practically, and how God has designed that to continue and help us to keep on with our faith. I'm not sure if you know the scriptures from Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47, but there we see a picture of the early church, and it gives us a model for community. It says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer, and all the believers were together and had everything in common. It is a common thing to reference this passage when a church talks about community, because it is a community that is marked by shared faith and shared lives. There's the supporting of one another, both spiritually and practically. You see, community goes beyond Sunday gatherings, doesn't it? If all we did was turn up on Sunday, gather together, and then call that community, well, we would know that there is something lacking. But it's about doing more than that. It's about becoming friends. It's about having relationship together. It's about doing life together, as another Christianese phrase comes to mind. It's rejoicing with one another when we celebrate things that are going on in our lives that are encouraging and good and uplifting and fruitful. It's supporting one another when there's hardships and challenges, and when life seems a bit bleak and there's despair or there's grief. Yeah, of course, Romans 12 puts it simply, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. When we have a strong community, there is exactly that. There's a community that lifts each other up, especially in challenging times. Now, I know I have used the cycling and peloton illustration regularly through this series, and I'll continue to do so. I have no shame. But imagine there a cyclist who gets a flat tyre in the middle of the race. If you have teammates around you, they're not left behind, because the teammates often pause to help get them back on track. In a similar way, when we talk about community, and community in a faith setting, in a church setting, there is, I suppose, that call for us to pause, to stop what we are doing in our hurried lives and support one another, to pull over and to take the time with one another to support and uplift and encourage one another. It means we're there for one another, doesn't it? Even when things are tough and challenging. Of course, that's a bit of a two-way street. We need to let ourselves be supported. We need to let ourselves be humble enough to recognise that things are tough and have people there surround us. It also means we need to be intentional about fostering relationships, doesn't it? And friendships that mean there are people around us that will support us, that will celebrate with us, that will encourage us, that will grieve with us, whatever it might be. There's a bit of a two-way street and intentionality going on. One of the best ways to grow as a community is to at least be present with one another, isn't it? So present on Sunday is helpful. Staying around and building up further relationship and connection and communication is even better. Another way we could do that is through serving one another. As we serve together, work side by side in the ministry and the activity, the responsibility of the church, well, we're helping others, we're building up the church, but we're also building up one another. We're building a sense of trust, a sense of a strong bond with one another. You know, there's strength or shared shared purpose as we serve together. Again, I've mentioned intentionality, but in Acts, the believers there broke bread in their homes and shared meals with one another with glad and sincere hearts. So whether it's a coffee after church at morning tea or gathering in a small group or connecting with someone outside during the week or finding time to connect meaningfully with someone on the phone, whatever it might be, there does need to be a sense of intentionality. And of course, there's praying for one another. Prayer is perhaps something that unifies us more at a heart level than anything we might consider. James 5 says, pray for one another, pray for each other so that you may be healed. And knowing others that are praying for us brings a sense of healing, a sense of unity, a sense of restoration. Praying for others helps us share with them in life's joys and challenges. And so as we pray together regularly for one another, well then we grow together as well. That's why our email list on Sunday mornings that comes out, that gets Together We Pray, it lists opportunities for us to pray for one another and the things that are going on in our church, in our lives, and in our world. I think back on my own sense of community, growing up in church life, particularly in my 20s when I had a group of young adult friends around me. Now, not all of those friends have stuck with me as friends for, the last 10 or 20 years, but for a season it was a buzz, and there was a great sense of community. And the funny thing was that often you would hear the comment from others who would say, I don't really feel connected here. I don't really feel part of the community. Now, it could be because of my perspective and where I sat within the community that gave me an advantage, so to speak. It could have been part of my personality, could have been some of the friends that I made there. But when I heard that, I couldn't understand, because there was opportunity after opportunity to join in with the community that we had there and going on. I'm not sure about what you think about when we think community. In my life and with my family and the kids, we have lots of opportunity to have different communities within us. We've got a school community that we're associated with, a cricket club we're associated with, a junior footy club that we're associated with. We've got a church family that we're obviously closely associated with. We've got our own family. We've got friends who we continue to catch up with from high school even. And so there's another little community there. I'm not sure what community is for you, whether it's school, university, family, other midweek activities that you might get up to, sporting clubs and whatever it might be. But when we are in community, we sense that place of belonging that we find ourselves in. It might be in those groups I've mentioned, but when it comes to church, well, it's quite unique. The unique aspect of what brings us together, what unifies us together in community, is Jesus Christ. He is the centre of our community. And so anyone from any tribe or nation or tongue can come together and know that they are part of Christ's community, his church, because it is Christ that binds us together. As opposed to my son's basketball team, which gets bound together by bouncing a ball and throwing it into a ring, or as opposed to an art class who comes together to do art together, or as opposed to a community that is bound over football or running together, or I'm trying to think of something other than sport, but some sort of music or some sort of Probus or RSL club or whatever it might be. There is a difference. And what gets bound together in the church is a group of people who are called by God to be his people, to be his community in the place that they find themselves in. Well, a couple of practical things we might be able to do. One, perhaps we can connect with someone who's new to our church. Take a few minutes to reach out to someone in our community that you don't know so well. If you don't go to our community but listen, maybe you can apply that to your own church or community. Another way to become more integrated into church life is to join a small group or a connect group where we connect with God and we connect with one another. You may not be part of a group already here at MBC, but certainly come and chat to me if you're not, and I'd love to point you in the right direction. And then, of course, we can look at ways to serve. We've already talked about serving early on in the piece here, but we can look at ways of serving, and not just serving by ourselves on our own, but actually if we can connect with others and serve with others as part of a team, as part of collaborating together, then even all the more we grow together in community. So when we pray together, support one another and grow together, we find that we become a true reflection of the Church of Jesus Christ. I want to thank you for joining me on this episode of Deep Dive. Thank you for diving deep with me this week. I'd love to hear any feedback that you have from our podcast. We're now 14 episodes in, and I'm looking forward perhaps to bringing something fresh for the Christmas period, but we'll think about that. Thank you to everyone who listens regularly. I do appreciate the feedback that you do give, and I hope that I can talk to you next time when we dive a little deeper into mission.